gasoline tax. It's this capping of the gas tax. I was going to get up here and compliment Senator Holman and on adopting basically the proposal that we had back in March to suspend the gas tax, but that's not what really is going on here. I would also point out the $200 tax refund in whatever form it's going to go back. We had the proposal, and I feel like I'm beating it to death, but the fact of the matter was our proposal was more targeted. It gave lower income people double that, $400 for a single person, $800 for a married couple, and even for people between $80,000 and $125,000, they get more than this proposal. But I recognize it is something. I did also catch in here that we are providing a sales tax exemption for children's diapers. I don't have a problem with that. I support that. We've supported measures like that all along, and other pink tax abolishing. So it's good to see that in here. I do have to, though, say this about the monies that are in here, the $45 million for the wraparound services, and I think Senator Holman said something about the additional appropriations at the end, which go for pregnancies as well, and I think Senator Holman said 42 million, maybe it wasn't that amount. That's money, it's money that's going to be well spent, and I think it's money that's going to be needed. So I support that, but I do have to question the timing. Why now? We know why now. It's the other bill that we're going to consider later on, Senate Bill 1. And it's the right thing to do. If you're going to pass Senate Bill 1, and you're going to have more forced pregnancies, the government's going to do that, then the government should provide support for those individuals that are in that position. But to me, no matter how I vote for this bill, and I truly am torn at this point in time, I think it does do some good. It is better than a poke in the eye, I guess. But I have to say, I consider this bill sort of like window dressing. Makes the window look nice, pretty, and everything. And then you go and you look in the window, and you know what's in there? It says Senate Bill 1, taking your rights right here in Indiana. Thank you, Madam President.
Further discussion. Senator Griffin. Senator Griffin's recognized to speak on the motion to concur.
Madam President, members of the Senate, I'm going to support this concurrence. I listened very carefully to what Senator Holman said, and I agree about the efficiency issue. It is more efficient if we can use an instrument of government to retain a cost of doing business and have that be equal to the value of whatever was proposed than having to write a check. It would even be better if we had the organizational capacity in the Department of Revenue, for some reasons that aren't really on them entirely because of the long time need to upgrade their electronic facility to process data. It would have been even better if we could have done direct deposit. That would have still been an efficient way to deliver what the governor really summoned us here for to consider anyway, which is his $225 position. I do think that our earlier proposal back in the session met the efficiency criteria, which I understand, in that we were going to use the revenue surplus known to us then. It turns out it's much higher than then. We thought it would sustain roughly 4 months of suspending both the use tax or the sales tax as well as the excise of the road building tax, and not have let the state or the locals be held harmless. So the community crossings grants, which were devised by this legislature well before I got here, and I praise you for, they are excellent. And the other things that we do with that increased revenue would still be sustained, at least for a period of time. And as my colleagues before me have said, the relief would have been more immediate. Be that as it may, I celebrate the fact that we've come to a place where we think that we can responsibly get $200 to the taxpayers who had it in. It is, after all, part of the surplus we want to return to them. And I also loved very much the fact that the sales tax barrier for children's diapers, it made me laugh a little bit because they identified diapers for adults, but they're not exempted at all. Children's diapers are exempted, and I think that's wise policy, and it also is not going to be an undue strain on our already relatively narrow sales tax base. And I hope that maybe we can have, other conversations in the future with regard to the pink tax, as it's called, the sales tax barriers for just those personal items that are uniquely without any analog for men to enjoy, that I do think is an undue burden on that. And I was reminded of an adage that Senator Charbonneau had reminded me in another context when we were talking about how to make local government better many years ago when we were working on that as a project. And I was reminded of an adage, you probably have heard it, never make perfect be the enemy of the good. And as I hear my colleagues speak about this, I see that adage applies here. So in that being the case, applying that particular old saw, I intend to support the concurrence. I thank Madam President for the opportunity to speak to my colleagues.
Further discussion, Senator Young. Senator Holman, will you yield to questions? Senator Young.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Senate. Senator Holman, on page 28.
I'm sorry?
Page 28, section 9. I just don't know what the tax credit this issue is here on the $2,500. I know it has something to do with children, but I don't know exactly what. Can you tell me exactly what that credit is for and how it's used?
All of that would be used, Senator, because it's a refundable credit. If you don't qualify to get all of that credit, otherwise to carry it forward or lose it, you basically would get all of that refunded. Currently, and a lot of credits that are available to you, you can carry them forward,
right,
or you lose the excess that you didn't claim. This would allow you to get a refundable credit, which means whatever you spent up to $2,500, you would get that refunded to you.
And I got that part. What I don't know is what is the credit for. That's I just wondered, what's it for?
For an adoption.
For an adoption. Okay, good. I figured it had something to do with it, but it wasn't clear, and I didn't know what it was. Then on my last question, then, Senator Holman, page 38, big section 23. I think this may be, I don't know, I think it may have something to do with the gas and the retailer, but I'm not quite sure. And I read this, and I know it's a retailer, and I know something's going on, but I don't know exactly the purpose and what it is. Could you explain to me what this section is for?
I believe that has to do with the effective date I believe it has to do with the gas transaction, moving that date to allow for the tax to be collected. Was my understanding of why that was inserted into.
Right. Do they not already collect the tax?
But it has to do with the effective date of when the tax is collected. As I understand it, Senator.
Okay, I don't want to make a lot. I figured it may have had something to do with the gas, but I couldn't tell from the wording in here. But it says the section expires on January 1st, 2025. So I don't see enough. I don't see where the date would start. I see where the section goes away, but I don't know what it. I don't know if that was we were reducing the gas tax or something, and it goes away in 2025, or.
That's the indexing piece of that goes away in 2025.
So the gas won't be, there won't be an indexing anymore on it then?
Well, it's set to expire in 2025.
Yeah, I'm saying there won't be any indexing after that.
That's correct.
And so, just to make clear, the indexing won't, they won't have a mechanism to increase gas taxes then if they don't index?
That is correct, unless it's renewed.
Oh, okay, so we get rid of the increases automatic. Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Senator Yoder. Senator Yoder is recognized to speak on the motion to concur.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Senate. Senate Bill 2 is a real conundrum for me, just because I think there are issues that needed to be honestly debated on in both Senate Bill 3 and Senate Bill 2 before passing. I was hoping to have some of these conversations with House Bill 1001. That is not going to be the case. So Senate Bill 2 is conflating both Senate Bill 3 and Senate Bill 2, but there are some real concerns in Senate Bill 2, and maybe this is more of a hope that we can work to address these issues in upcoming sessions, because I think they are of real concern to Hoosiers and actually can put moms and babies at risk. Senate Bill 2 really does barely scratch the surface of acknowledging the crises that families in Indiana are facing. And it actually funds organizations that can hurt the health of women and miss real concerns about fetal health, all things that I know this body cares about. By funding crisis pregnancy centers with zero regulations, SB 2 could put women in danger. And I've heard stories that this bill, or these pregnancy resource centers, has put women in danger. I'll get to that in a few minutes. To reject amendments requiring these centers to follow basic scientific protocol for medical services that they do provide is putting women at risk. A vast majority of pregnancy resource centers are unlicensed facilities because they claim to focus on social services and not provide any medical services. Yet centers often provide pregnancy and STD testing and ultrasounds. These are medical services. A quick Google search of local crisis pregnancy centers or pregnancy resource centers confirm that they provide these services. One center with 12 locations throughout Indiana shows up on the Google search with free ultrasounds as the actual link to their website, and the website refers to medical grade pregnancy tests. Another center with several locations around the state has reviews stating, "I got a free ultrasound." When looking at actual licensed medical centers, they list the qualifications of all medical staff, including skilled and licensed technicians. When looking at pregnancy resource centers, their websites are silent on the issue of staff qualifications. And this is not good enough for Hoosier women. Crisis pregnancy centers that provide ultrasounds should be required to tell clients, one, that the ultrasound is a non-medical ultrasound. Two, that the ultrasound is not considered an official for the Medicaid purposes and will not be forwarded to a medical provider. And three, a client should be told where local OBGYNs can be located. We even heard in testimony from Real Alternatives, some of their contracted providers provide these services that I just mentioned. And when he was questioned about this, he could not answer, however, if the contracted providers in Indiana are licensed to provide such services. This is the agency, Real Alternatives, that will be getting $2 million in this bill. An agency that admits they don't know if their contracted providers are properly licensed. Providing non-medical ultrasounds to pregnant people can have consequences, especially if the client isn't aware that the ultrasound is non-medical. The center staff providing the ultrasounds are not required by any rule or law to be properly qualified. If there is something wrong with the embryo or the fetus on that ultrasound, or if the cardiac electrical activity is displaying signs for concern, the person providing the ultrasound is not qualified to recognize those concerns. If they are wrong about the gestational age, this might prevent the pregnant person from getting the help they need soon enough. All clients of these clinics deserve to know that they will not receive any medical information from the ultrasound. If there is no cardiac electrical activity, staff at the centers are not medically trained to talk to the women about the potential for a miscarriage or miscarriage care. When these ultrasounds are provided to the client, they are not forwarded to the medical professionals or placed in any medical file. The client has a right to know this. The client has a right to know that there is no medical review of that ultrasound. And if they want medical advice, they must see an actual doctor. In fact, we heard complaints from OBGYNs who have reached out to pregnancy resource centers for copies of the ultrasound for their patient's record. And they were told that the facilities do not keep records, and they can't provide that information. Clients need to know this, that this is not part of their medical record. They need to know that a doctor cannot consult on the information provided at these pregnancy resource centers. In addition to not receiving any medical information, a woman on Medicaid needs to know that the visit itself is not considered a medical visit. And here's why this is critical. Pregnant Medicaid recipients receive incentives for receiving care, prenatal care, and by attending certain doctor visits and reaching benchmarks. Pregnant Medicaid recipients will receive additional dollars that help with rent, utilities, and even baby supplies. However, frequently, these Medicaid recipients do not know that the ultrasounds that they are receiving at the resource centers are not qualifying for their Medicaid requirements. And what a surprise they are receiving from hearing this, when they thought they were doing what was required of them to receive the extra Medicaid benefits. Providing funding to these centers with no requirements for the medical services they are offering is not only irresponsible, but it will harm the very women and fetuses we are claiming to protect, not only in SB 2, but in SB 1. And this is a true example of putting extremism ahead of life. How do we know? Because these programs exclusively offer abstinence-only counseling. In fact, Real Alternatives, where $2 million in SB 2 is going, testified that they started providing abstinence-only services in Indiana in 2014. As a result, Indiana is in the bottom 12 of teenage pregnancy in the United States. Clearly, abstinence-only messaging is not working. We've been trying since the 1950s on abstinence-only messaging, and seriously, it is not working. It's time to accept the reality that people, including teens, are having sex because it's part of being fully human. It happens, and it happens regularly. And the only way to reduce our number of unplanned teen births is to only fund programs that provide wide access to scientifically based, FDA-approved contraception. By funding these abstinence-only programs, plus SB1, we are forcing teens into unplanned pregnancies. We're forcing them with lost opportunities and scholarships to schools that they may not be able to take. We're forcing them into lower lifetime earning potential, and high-risk pregnancies that their bodies aren't fully developed to support. SB2 is falling short of providing support, real support for families. And we really are just begging for crumbs here in SB2. $45 million will be put into the Families First Fund. And that is less than what this body approved last budget session to renovate a pig barn on the fairgrounds. Less than what we allocated to renovate a pig barn. We are funding the needs of our families, many of which have no access to housing, at less than what we funded to renovate the pig barn. In fact, Indianapolis has the second highest number of evictions among all U.S. cities and was one of 3 cities in Indiana in the top 20 highest eviction rates nationwide. Yet instead of helping stabilize families, we are shutting down cities trying to find a solution to give more power to unresponsive landlords. That's what we're doing, and this bill doesn't rectify that. It doesn't provide funding for our housing crisis. And I'm sure that pro-life means ensuring that our children have homes. It also ensures that children have food to eat. So let's talk about feeding the hungry. 1 in 7 Hoosier children is at risk of facing hunger, while almost 300,000 of our Hoosier children currently struggle with hunger. Yet we took federally funded food away from children last session. We took away access to free food. This bill does not even address funding for feeding children we have. This body voted against actual workplace pregnancy accommodations in previous sessions, despite testimony from women who miscarried due to working conditions. Members of this body looked them in the eye and literally said such discrimination doesn't exist because it didn't happen to them personally. Pro-life means listening to pregnant women when they tell us that what they need to stay healthy. It means not rejecting workplace pregnancy accommodation amendments on this bill, which we did. I'm not opposed to providing families with relief, and perhaps $200 is the best we can do. But I don't think that's true. And I don't think we think that's true. It falls incredibly short. It falls short of responding to the crises that many families in Indiana are facing. It falls short to the crises that SB1 is going to create in Indiana. $200 does not provide for a week of childcare. Yet SB2 does nothing to provide universal pre-K to address the fact that 55% of Hoosiers live in childcare deserts. I will say thank you for the tax relief on diapers, for the suspension for not taxing diapers, child diapers. That is a step forward. $200 doesn't cover groceries for a month for a family. Yet again, there's no real efforts in SB2 to address and provide families with access to food. $200 does most certainly not cover the prenatal visits or the $20,000 hospital bill for getting a C-section if you don't have insurance. SB2 falls short for so many reasons. And it's difficult when we've brought these two bills together, when we were called here to address inflation for Hoosiers and to provide some relief. And when we have the means to really address the needs of Hoosiers, SB2 falls short. Perhaps there are some little nuggets of gold in it. As I mentioned, the diaper tax for children is being suspended. That is good. The $200 that we're going to give to taxpayers in a refund, it's not great. It's not good, but it's something. Back to the point about crumbs. We can do better, but perhaps most concerning to me is the $2 million that we're going to be using to go toward pregnancy resource centers that are providing non-medical care under the auspices of medical care. And this we need to fix. We need to address this so Hoosier women know what kind of care they're receiving, and they can make appropriate plans for themselves and for their children. So I'm conflicted on this bill. I wish I could stand here and say one way or the other, but I appreciate you listening to me. I hope we can work together to fix some of these, because I think they are real concerns in this bill that I know we want to fix. I've heard from this body that we should be fixing, and I look forward to solving those problems in the coming session. Thank you.
Senator Becker. Senator Becker is recognized to speak on the motion to concur.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Senate. I'm going to support this conference committee report on Senate Bill 2, but I do want to point out some flaws that I see in it. You know, there was an amendment in the House that failed by a vote of 49 to 48 on, actually it was on contraceptives. And I'm telling you right now, you can't reduce the number of abortions without providing contraceptives. And I also want to share with you, we know that some countries, like the Netherlands is one example, they have been able to reduce the number of abortions that are performed while keeping them legal and accessible by having good and comprehensive sex education throughout the school systems, and also by making access to contraception free and easy to obtain. The rate of abortions in the Netherlands is way below that of even our most restrictive states. U.S. teenagers have sex at about the same rate as European teenagers, but in the United States, they are 3 times more likely to become pregnant. And with Senate Bill 1, we're going to force them to become pregnant. So I just want to point that out to you because it was an amendment that was defeated. I'm also very disappointed that we have taken out $30 million for presumptive eligibility for Medicaid recipients who are pregnant. We talk about how we want to help these low-income families, and we want those Medicaid. We're already paying 52% of all of our births in Indiana are paid for by Medicaid. And so we're also not providing health care in the future for these young people and women who are Medicaid eligible to receive presumptive eligibility. And what presumptive eligibility is it means that doctors presume that they will be qualified for Medicaid, and they will go ahead and treat them at the beginning of their pregnancy, and then until they can see whether or not they're completely eligible. I'm also very concerned about the fact that we are not providing prenatal tests for pregnant women in this legislation. It was something that FSSA had said they could do. It's something that we should do, but what it does is it just helps pregnant women early on find out whether or not they have something prenatally that's going to affect the baby so that they can plan for, and they're more likely to have healthy babies. So I'm very disturbed about that. I think we ought to take that money from pregnancy resource centers and give it to places where it really will make a difference in the health care of women. But I do appreciate the work on the some of the tax rebate. You know, Indiana owes me a refund, but I still haven't gotten it. And I certainly don't need the money, but I'll take it if they're going to give it to me. And I just think we ought to do a better job of informing the public about what we're doing. I'm very concerned that this session of the legislature is going too quickly and the public is not informed as much as they should be. You know, but I do intend to vote for this because right now it's the best we can offer. It's the best we have before us. So thank you.
Senator Breaux. Senator Breaux is recognized to speak on the motion to concur.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Senate. I, like several of my colleagues who have been to this microphone, are conflicted about this bill, but in the end, I will support this bill because I came down here to provide relief to consumers. That is the reason of this special session. I, like my constituents, are seeing the gas prices at the pump be outrageously high and grocery bills being much higher than usual. So while $200 is not much, as has been said, I don't believe it's the best we can do, but it's the best we can do right now. And to that end, I'm going to support this bill so that I can get at least $200 of relief to my constituents, including seniors on Social Security, which we fought for. But it needs to be noted that it is a far cry short from what this caucus proposed early on in March and during this special session. We can do better, but we chose not to. But I am supporting this because at least I'm doing something. But I think we need to check in our hearts to determine if this is really the best we can do. And do Hoosiers deserve more? This is only a down payment on maternal health care with a $45 million proposal, which is a fraction of the cost that is going to be needed to sustain these families once Senate Bill 1 passes. But $45 million is better than nothing. And if that's the best I can do, if removing sales tax on diapers is the best I can do, I will take it, because there are many families in my district that could benefit from a reduced price on diapers in the stores. We're also close on recognizing, but while we're giving this tax reduction on diapers, we're giving a fictionalized, as Senator Taylor says, savings at the gas pump. I think that's something that we should be embarrassed by, that we're going to call this a savings at the gas pump when in fact it really is not. But we're close on recognizing doula funding and pharmacists being able to prescribe birth control. These are all things that we need to get addressed in the upcoming sessions. I appreciate Senator Yoder on pointing out all of the flaws with the pregnancy resource centers. I did not know that, but that is something we should all be concerned about, and we should certainly address it in the upcoming sessions. We need to address contraceptive. We need to address the comprehensive sex education, housing. There are so many other issues that we need to address. So this is just a tip. We are just beginning, but it's my hope that we will be able to continue these discussions and get into even more depth and detail in the upcoming sessions. But for now, for my Hoosiers, that live in my district, I want them to know that I am here fighting for them, and I will continue to fight for them. And $200 is the best I can do right now, but it will not be where I stop. Thank you.
Further discussion? Senator Holdman, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam President and members of the Senate. I would just briefly like to clarify just a couple of points that were made and that I may have misspoke. First of all, with the Hoosier Family First program, the State Budget Agency provides the funding, but it is reviewed by the State Budget Committee, and I may have not said that exactly correct. Also, just to point out that the Pension Stabilization Fund, which is the pre-96 fund for teachers' pension accounts, is funded only at 31.6% actuarially. We don't want to be like our sister states of Illinois and Kentucky, which are two of the worst next to New Jersey for having unfunded liability for employee pension programs. Also, the automatic taxpayer refund is a refundable credit. You would only report the credit, the receiving the refund, if you itemize on your federal taxes federally, and otherwise you would not need to report that. I thank you for $87 million in wraparound services to help pregnant women, infants, and adopting families, and appreciate your support. Thank you.
The motion to concur is placed on its passage. A machine is open. Have all senators voted? The machine is closed. Clerk will tally the roll. Roll call shows 37 ayes, 9 nays. The motion to concur has passed. Secretary will inform the House of the passage of the motion to concur. Are there any motions, any messages from the House? The chair recognizes Senator Holdman for an announcement.
Majority members will caucus at 6 p.m.
Chair recognizes President Pro Tem Bray for a motion.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Senate. This time I move that the Senate now be in recess until the fall of the gavel.
The Senate is in recess until the fall of the gavel.